throw my food away?
This kind of food isn't allowed in first class.
My daughter made this for me because I can't eat what you share here.
I don't care. Your food stinks.
For making my grandma cry, you are all going to regret this.
And what are you going to do, little girl?
You're all fired.
Some moments change everything. A single act of cruelty. A dismissive laugh. A child's tears become a grandmother's heartbreak. And in that heartbreak, a reckoning begins that no one saw coming. Evelyn Walker was 72 years old. She had survived poverty in rural Haiti, raised 5 children on her own after her husband died young, and crossed an ocean to build a better life for her family. She had worked as a nurse for 40 years in Miami, tending to patients who could barely afford care, never complaining, never asking for recognition. She carried herself with quiet dignity, the kind that comes from decades of choosing grace over bitterness. But today, on this flight from Miami to Port-au-Prince, that dignity had been shattered by a flight attendant's contempt. Evelyn had packed her meal with care. Legume, a traditional Haitian vegetable stew simmered with eggplant, cabbage, carrots, and just a hint of seasoning. Baked banana peas, plantains that her daughter had carefully baked instead to reduce oil. Pickles, the spicy pickled vegetable relish that reminded her of home. Every ingredient chosen deliberately, lovingly, because Evelyn's body was fragile now. Diabetes. H. pylori. A digestive system that rebelled against processed foods, heavy sauces, anything too rich or unfamiliar. Her daughter had spent hours preparing this meal, labeling each container, writing instructions on a small note tucked inside the bag. "Ma'am, eat this. Don't let them give you airplane food. Your stomach can't handle it." Evelyn had smiled when she read that note. Her daughter always worried too much. But now, standing in the aisle of the first-class cabin, watching the flight attendant toss her food into the trash with the same careless motion someone might use to discard a used napkin, Evelyn felt something crack inside her chest. Laura Bennett, the flight attendant, was 28 years old. She had been working for the airline for 6 years, long enough to develop the kind of smugness that comes from believing you control a small kingdom 35,000 feet above the earth. She had perfect makeup, perfect hair, a perfect smile she deployed only for passengers she deemed worthy of it. Evelyn Walker, in her simple floral dress and worn sandals, did not meet Laura's standards. Laura had noticed the food the moment Evelyn pulled it from her bag. The smell of pickles, tangy and sharp, had drifted through the cabin. Laura's nose wrinkled. She glanced at the other first-class passengers, none of whom seemed bothered, but that didn't matter. Laura had made her decision. She approached Evelyn's seat with her professional smile, the one that didn't reach her eyes. "Excuse me, ma'am," Laura said, her tone dripping with false politeness. "You can't eat that here." Evelyn looked up, confused. "I'm sorry?" "Your food," Laura said, gesturing at the containers. "It's not allowed in first class." Evelyn's brow furrowed. "But I brought this from home. My daughter made it for me. I have special dietary needs." Laura's smile tightened. "I understand that, but this is first class. We have meal service. You can't bring outside food." "But I can't eat the airplane food," Evelyn said, her voice soft, pleading. "I have diabetes. An H. pylori. The doctor said I need to be careful about what I eat." Laura's patience, already thin, evaporated. "Ma'am, I don't make the rules. You'll have to put that away." Evelyn's hands trembled as she looked down at her meal. She had been looking forward to it. The flight was 3 hours long. She needed to eat something. "Please," Evelyn whispered. "Just let me eat this. I won't bother anyone." Laura sighed, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. She reached down, grabbed the containers from Evelyn's tray, and walked toward the galley. Evelyn stood, her heart pounding. "Wait, please don't." Laura didn't respond. She walked into the galley, opened the trash compartment, and dropped the containers inside. The sound of the lid closing echoed through the cabin. Evelyn stood frozen in the aisle, her mouth open, her eyes filling with tears. She couldn't speak, couldn't move. The humiliation washed over her in waves. Laura returned, brushing her hands together as if she had just completed a distasteful chore. "We'll bring you our meal service shortly," she said, her tone dismissive. "You'll be fine." But Evelyn wasn't fine. She sank back into her seat, her shoulders shaking, tears streaming down her face. She tried to cry quietly, not wanting to draw attention, but the grief was too much. Her daughter's food. thrown away like garbage, treated like it was worthless, like she was worthless. Beside her, Amara had been silent. The 9-year-old girl had watched everything. She had seen the way Laura looked at her grandmother, heard the condescension in her voice, watched her grandmother's dignity crumble. Amara's hands clenched into fists. Her jaw tightened. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply sat there, her dark eyes fixed on Laura, her mind already working. Laura had no idea what she had just done. No idea who this little girl was. No idea that the grandmother she had just humiliated was beloved by one of the most powerful women in the world. And no idea that Amara Walker, at 9 years old, had already learned from her mother that respect was not optional, that cruelty had consequences, and that sometimes justice required a firm hand, even from the youngest voice in the room. To understand why this moment mattered so much, you need to understand Evelyn Walker. Not just who she was on this flight, but who she had always been. Evelyn was born in 1952 in a small village outside Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Her childhood was defined by scarcity. Not enough food. Not enough clean water. Not enough opportunity. But her mother, a seamstress who worked 16-hour days, had taught her something more valuable than comfort. Dignity. Self-respect. The belief that poverty did not make you less human. Evelyn carried those lessons with her when she immigrated to Miami in 1975, at 23 years old, pregnant with her first child, her husband having died in a construction accident months earlier. She arrived with $40 in her pocket, a borrowed suitcase, and a fierce determination to give her children the life she never had. She worked as a nurse's aide at first, then went to nursing school at night while raising 3 children alone. She graduated at 31, began working in a public hospital in Liberty City, and spent the next 4 decades caring for patients who reminded her of herself. Poor, overlooked, deserving of compassion. Evelyn never became wealthy. She lived in the same modest apartment